There comes a moment in life when the reality of death stops being something abstract. When we are young, death feels like it belongs to someone else. To the old, to strangers on the news, to stories in history books. We live with the illusion that we have endless tomorrows. We plan as if life stretches out infinitely before us, and in those days, death is almost invisible, hidden behind the noise of ambition, relationships, careers, and dreams. But time has a way of stripping away that illusion. Hair turns gray. The body doesn't move with the same ease. The mirror reflects lines of wisdom, and sometimes lines of regret. Friends, neighbors, or loved ones begin to pass away. And slowly, death stops being a distant rumor. It becomes personal. It becomes real. Watch this video till the end because you will discover something truly surprising in Carl Jung's perspective on death that might completely change the way you look at your own life. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more content on psychology, spirituality, and the timeless wisdom of Carl Jung. Now, let's dive deep. Jung believed that death anxiety arises because the ego refuses to accept its limits. The ego wants control. It wants permanence. It wants to believe I will go on forever. And when reality threatens that illusion, fear explodes. But Jung's psychology is not about clinging to the ego. It's about individuation, the process of becoming whole. Individuation is not just about midlife crises, self-discovery, or balancing work and family. It is the entire arc of a human life. It is about integrating the shadow, reconciling with the unconscious, and uniting the opposites within us. And for Jung, this process doesn't stop until death. Death, he believed, is not the interruption of individuation. Death is its fulfillment. Think of life as a circle. In childhood and youth, we are building, expanding, becoming. But in the second half of life, the circle begins to curve back toward its center. Death is not the breaking of the circle. It is the moment the circle closes, bringing everything into completion. Instead of seeing death as a wall, Jung invites us to see it as the horizon. And when you walk toward that horizon with awareness, you do not fall into nothingness. You cross a threshold into wholeness. This is why myths and religions across the world have always spoken of death in terms of passage, not annihilation. The Egyptians described the soul sailing across the Nile. The Greeks spoke of the river Styx. Christianity offers the promise of eternal life. Buddhism sees death as a doorway to rebirth. Jung didn't dismiss these stories as superstition. He recognized them as archetypal truths, patterns that rise from the collective unconscious. They reveal what the human soul has always known, that death is transformation. Even Jung's patients, as they aged and approached mortality, would often dream of journeys. One dreamed of walking across a great bridge. Another dreamed of opening a door into a luminous new room. Another saw themselves sailing toward the horizon. These were not random images. Jung believed the unconscious itself was preparing them for transition, whispering to them, "This is not destruction. This is completion." And Jung himself refused to accept that old age was merely decline. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, he wrote, "The afternoon of life must have a significance of its own and cannot merely be a pitiful appendage to life's morning." What did he mean? That the second half of life has its own purpose. It is not about desperately holding on to youth. It is about ripening. It is about integration. It is about preparing the soul for its final transformation. Think about how differently that frames aging. Instead of seeing every wrinkle, every ache, every gray hair as a loss, we can see them as symbols of ripening, of readiness. Instead of clinging to what is slipping away, we can focus on what is being completed. Why does this matter for our psychology today? Because what we deny creates suffering. The more we deny death, the more power death anxiety has over us. But when we face mortality directly, something shifts. Fear softens, and life becomes richer. When you accept death as part of life, you stop wasting your days. You let go of petty grudges. You no longer chase every shallow distraction. You begin to live with greater authenticity. You realize, I don't have forever, but I have now, and now is sacred. So let me ask you, if you knew with certainty that you had only 1 year left to live, how would that change your choices? Would you keep filling your hours with meaningless noise, or would you forgive, love, reconcile, and cherish? This is the hidden gift of mortality. By confronting death, we learn how to live. And this is why Jung believed that death anxiety, when embraced consciously, becomes spiritual awakening. The same fear that once haunted you becomes the energy that deepens your soul. Death, in this light, is not collapse. It is completion. It is not failure. It is fulfillment. It is the circle closing, the story reaching its final chapter, not with despair, but with meaning. Think of the caterpillar. To the caterpillar, entering the cocoon is death. The world it knows disappears. The body it knows dissolves. But that surrender is not the end. It is the transformation that allows the butterfly to emerge. For Jung, human death is like that. To the ego, it feels like annihilation. But to the deeper self, it is awakening. And so the real question is not, what will happen when I die? The real question is, how can I live now in a way that prepares me for completion? Because when you live with that awareness, every moment becomes meaningful. The afternoon of life is no longer wasted. It becomes sacred. So perhaps death anxiety is not just fear. Perhaps it is the soul knocking at the door, urging you to awaken. As the sun sets each evening, the day does not collapse into nothing. It completes itself. The colors of the sunset remind us that endings can be beautiful. They can carry peace, gratitude, and wholeness. Jung invites us to see death in the same way, not as darkness swallowing light, but as the light completing its cycle. And perhaps, if we learn to look at our own lives through that lens, we will begin to notice the countless little deaths and rebirths we experience every single day. The closing of a chapter, the letting go of an old self, the courage to embrace something new. Each of these moments prepares us, gently, for the final transition. Death then becomes less of a stranger and more of a teacher, guiding us toward wholeness. So I leave you with this question. Will you spend the time you have left fearing the inevitable? Or will you let the reality of death awaken you to live more deeply, more authentically, and more whole? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need comfort in facing their own mortality. And I will see you in the next video.